Hey guys, welcome to another episode of El Jefe's Shop. This week we're going to revisit one of the previous builds on the channel. And I did this build a few years ago in a very short amount of time. It was the first thing that ever happened in this shed. I waited for the concrete to be done and then we wheeled this thing straight in. So I hope you enjoy it. But I've been flat out at work and I haven't been able to film anything, so this is all I can get for you guys. So head over to the shop, grab yourself a t-shirt, and I can go to work less and get more videos done. Let's get into it. So to start off this episode, this is a Daihatsu cuore, also known as a L700. So I purchased a shell, which was previously airbagged by my friend Marty at Solo Customs. And this was done probably 10 years ago. And then since then, the car's had a bit of a hard life and has been stripped for parts. I then bought a crashed donor with all of the parts that I needed to re-shell. So the plan with this car was to put the white car, put all of the airbag stuff into the blue car and get it all finished. But we ended up doing the opposite and putting all of the blue car into the white car. It was just too much fabrication to recreate on the blue car if we did it that way. Once they were dug out, it was a quick wash and a stock take of all the parts to see what we needed and what we had. And the second we got it onto the concrete in the shed, we decided to test out the previously airbagged rear end and see if it still worked. Once that was tested and confirmed to be working well, we decided to start sanding the roof, mask it off and paint it black. I've always liked the look of a black roof on a coloured car, but I've never actually done it, so this was a good opportunity to give it a go. Then we started stripping the interior of the blue car for all of the parts we needed and all of the panels for the exterior of the white car. So given that we were changing the colour of the white car to a pastel green, we needed to paint the inside of the jambs, inside of the tailgate and all of the inside of the doors and the inside door jambs. Then we wanted to make sure that the inside of the doors and the inside of the tailgate were also painted in the correct green colour. So after this was painted, I moved on to cutting out a new false floor to delete the rear seats and mount the airbag system. I installed the airbags and compressor onto the new false floor and tested out the rear airbag suspension for the first time with all of the correct air system. With all of the airbag system working correctly, I tidied up the wiring underneath the false floor and hid as much of the wiring and pipes as I could. Then it was finally time to paint the rest of the car. Now this pastel green was quite a nice colour. It's not something I would normally go for, but it is a colour that I really like. So I thought I'd try it on this car because I knew I wouldn't be keeping it long term. However, I do think it turned out quite well. Same with the satin black roof. Once the fresh coat of green paint was dry, it was finally time to unmask the whole car, and I then turned on to resealing all of the air tanks and air lines and started installing the front air valves, which it had never had before. So when Marty built this car, he never put the front air system in. It was always planned, but it never actually happened, and I always wanted to see this car with the front air suspension in. So with the air system cleaned up and resealed, I moved on to installing the new carpet on the false floor and installing all of the parts onto the false floor, which was quite satisfying. This whole build and reassembly took around 3 weeks of full-time work. I did it over about a 3-month period, but I could have done it in 3 weeks if I had full time to work on it. With the air system all back in place, I reinstalled the interior from the blue donor car into the white car, cleaning every single piece as I went, and this included swapping the entire wiring loom and dash over from the blue car, which was quite a time-consuming process, but it paid off in the end. Then it was finally time to do the driveline. So I removed everything from the engine bay in the white car so that I could paint the engine bay black. After this, it was ready for the blue car to be stripped for its engine, wiring, subframe, and all of the other parts to make it run. After a few hurdles with the engine install in regards to the wiring for the manual conversion, it was finally time for a first test drive. Wiring is something very hard to film and hard to convey the difficulties that you're having, so I skipped this process and just worked it out. I then reassembled the entire car before pulling out the front suspension again for the new air struts. I purchased universal airbags for the front, which had a shock built in. These were great, except that they needed a bit of fabrication. After a quick, successful test with the airbags, I fabricated some top hats for the struts to fix the camber, as it had positive camber originally when I bolted these struts in. Once the struts were finished, I gave them a quick paint and a final assembly, and these front struts marked the final job for the Sior. However, I still had to put all of the front panels back on, the headlights in, and get some beauty shots before promptly selling it for the next project. Overall, I think this car turned out great, and I really do like it. It's had 2 owners since me, and I'm still in touch with the new owner today. As far as I know, there's been no major issues with this car, and for a quick project, I think it turned out great, and I'm glad it's still on the road. That's all for this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next week.